Welcome back to Big Up, uh, where we review the latest in drum and bass and other electronic records on vinyl. So, I want to do my first album review today. We've got this awesome box set from Hospital Records, Jetstar meets Hospital, 16 Dance Hall Destroyers. This is an all 45 set. As you can see, really cool. So you can guess my disappointment when it showed up. The big old split, bumped corners. You know, this wasn't a cheap box set by any means, so I was super disappointed. But luckily, I emailed Hospital and they sent me one that's in pristine condition, which is amazing. Thank you so much, Hospital customer service. So, let's take a look at what's inside. All right. So we got this awesome foam padding. Not really. So we start off, we got the whole album on CD. This probably won't get much play from me personally, but I think it's awesome they still do that. Next, we have these completely awesome 45, 7-inch slip mats from Hospital Records. You know, the collector in me doesn't want to open these, and the DJ in me really wants to open them. I wish I could just buy a pair of just these. That would be really cool. Maybe I'll keep an eye out for the Hospital store and see if they eventually start selling a pair of these. Then we got a little mini poster with the cover art, and which has all the names of the artists that have been featured on this, and the songwriting production details. And then we got the vinyl. Oop, looks like I got them backwards. So all standard 45s. They look kind of like old school 45s from Jamaica, raga, reggae, dance hall, all that stuff is heavily released on 45 still to this day. It's good stuff. I'm a huge fan of the 7-inch format. I know it's annoying to flip them over, but I'm a DJ, so I'm used to singles on. So let's take a look at what we got on the vinyl. We're starting here with Pull Up Selector by Jimmy and Taurus Riley, a new Logic remix. I'm a big fan of New Tones and Logistics. If you didn't know, New Logic is for New Tone and Logistics, two brothers that have been on Hospital Records for a long time. This is a great tune. It's got modern bass, great use of the vocal samples. It's got some break switch ups during the breakdown. One of the standout tunes of this album, very much like this one. And I won't, try to fool anyone here. I think this whole album was pretty amazing, music-wise and packaging-wise. I can't say enough good things about it. B-side, we've got Natural Mystic by Horace Andy, which is a Saxon remix. I've reviewed some other Saxon previously for some of his modern jungle stuff. This one is a dance floor, heavy, kind of jump-uppy style tune. My only criticism is it doesn't retain the dubby feel through the drop. It kind of is like got a dubby intro, got some dubby lyrics, like dubby vocal samples, and then it drops into a more jump-up style tune, and most of the dub feel just kind of disappears. One of the weaker tunes on the EP, but certainly not a bad tune, just one of the weaker ones. Next up, we have England Story by YT, S.P.Y remix. So overall, I'm a huge S.P.Y fan. I think that S.P.Y is one of the greatest producers in modern drum and bass. He has released a string of some of the best albums in drum and bass, the most consistent. He's up there with Caliber or Break in his consistency. And which is why I was kind of surprised that I wasn't really feeling the song. It's just a little too simplistic. it doesn't feel S.P.Y enough to me. It keeps the dubby sound. It's got the basic. I mean, it's not a bad tune by any means whatsoever. It's just kind of a. It feels a little more generic than a lot of the other tunes on this EP. The B side, we have "Police in the Helicopter" by John Holt, Benny L remix. This tune to me was the surprise track of this album. First time I heard it, I was like, I don't know if I like this or not. This is kind of weird. Next time, but it's kind of that one that I keep double clicking on when I pull it up in Spotify to replay in my headphones. I actually really grew to love this tune. I think it's interesting and different, and I think it's really cool. The bass line that he's created in this really sounds like a helicopter. Gives you kind of the feel that you're being chased by a helicopter. So I recommend that one highly. Then we come up to Soja Say, Quadrant by Jackie Edwards, Quadrant, Kid Hops, and Iris remix. So Quadrant, Kid Hops, and Iris are three locals from the Seattle area that are amazing producers, amazing DJs. I've known them for quite a long time personally. Iris actually was the photographer at my wedding. So I kind of like to grab anything they do just out of both respect and because I think it's really cool that I have friends that are releasing awesome drum and bass. On top of that, I think this tune is amazing. It's a little bit darker than some of the other ones, but in a good way. It really retains that dubby feel, that Jamaican raga feel. Kid Hops is like he does a local reggae dub dance hall radio show here in Seattle, so he's going to treat it correctly. And then the B side, which actually is the A side, whoops, is "Murder Dem" by Ninja Man. Now, Danny Bird is one of the best dance floor artists that I enjoy. He doesn't take himself too seriously. His production's never taken too seriously. He loves to do an old school jungle remix, rinse out. It's the type of really dance floory, poppy kind of stuff in drum and bass that I really enjoy just because it's fun. It's not trying to think too seriously about it. And the way he uses this Murder Dem sample, Murder Dem, over the break and over the drop is amazing. It's super fun. I love this tune. Yeah. Next up, we have "I'm Still in Love" by Alton Ellis. So this is one of my least favorites. The drums get a little repetitive and the drops a little simplistic for my personal taste. But the root sample is done pretty great. It just is, this one feels like filler, and I hate to say it. I've enjoyed T.I.'s remixes in the past, but at the moment this one isn't doing it for me. On the B side, we have "Here I Come" by New Tone. "Here I Come" by Barrington Levy, New Tone remix. I actually, because I've been Googling some of these artists, I found out Barrington Levy died this week or something. That's pretty crazy. So as I previously did, I'm a big fan of New Tone, and this one has that old, early to mid 2000s Hospital feel. Hospital went from being purely liquid, kind of helping invent that sound, especially modern kind of dance floor liquid, and it got more and more dance floory and more jump uppy as they signed artists, which is totally fine. I most of the time I like their stuff, but this one really reminds me of that sound of the mid 2000s when New Tone was knocking out albums left and right, and this is definitely a sample that you've heard like 1,000 times. If you've listened to drum and bass and all those artists, all those songs that end up getting remixed over and over again, just a great relic of it. Next, we have Burial by King Tubby and Barry Brown. If you haven't ever heard of King Tubby, you should know that he had a massive influence on early jungle music. He really invented what they call dub in the the subgenre of reggae, which is huge bass, sparse sounds, lots of delays on the horns. A lot of stuff you hear in drum and bass, it comes from King Tubby's influence and King Tubby's influence on those early drum bass artists, jungle artists. So King Tubby's definitely someone you should get to know, especially if you're interested in the history of drum and bass. As far as Think Tonk, I've never heard of him. This one's definitely a little bit more on the experimental side, which I'm a big fan of people taking risks and being experimental. In general, like most of the drum bass you'll find I like is just a little bit different. It's not the same thing over and over again. But this one just wasn't doing it for me. It didn't really by no means a bad tune, but it's not going to be the first one I grab if I was to play these out DJing, which I probably wouldn't because these would be pretty hard to do. All right. The B-side, we've got Down the Line Dub by Mafia and Fluxy, the Whiny and Inja remix. So Whiny and Inja have done a lot of work together. Inja's kind of the MC of Hospital at the moment, and I actually really dig a lot of his stuff. I've read some online criticism of him. That's fine. I have not been a huge fan of MCs and drum and bass in general. But Whiny takes a real hip-hop influence from this song and mixes it nicely to really complement both the samples and Inja's rhyming style. Great tune. We've got... Oh, that's the last... The A-side. Next, we have Skylarking by Horace Andy, London Electricity remix. Huge London Electricity fan, have been for as long as I can remember. And what I would say about this remix is it's exactly what you expect from London Electricity. And that's not in a bad way. It's in the... It feels like a warm blanket. It's headphone music. It's not dance floor killers. It's thinking drum and bass. It's amazingly produced. It's interesting. And it reflects the fact that, Mr. Electricity is getting a little bit older in the years and definitely his style has changed. Highly recommend it. Then the B-side is kind of like the club smasher of this entire album. I've heard it on a couple mixes. It goes hard. It's definitely jump uppy, dance floor forward, but not in a cheesy way. It's a big tune. It's called Forward and Pull Up by Chaka Demis, Urban Dawn remix. I know Urban Dawn's been kind of killing it with the releases lately, doing a lot of stuff. His first album came out recently on Hospital. This one's a big tune, and it's not cheesy. It's not bad. It's pretty great. It's one of those dance floor tunes that I certainly would use to try to smash a dance floor if I could get anyone to come watch me DJ. Next up, we have Under My Sensei by Barrington Levy, Particle remix, and another classic. Like, you have heard this sample if you have listened to much sampled music. It's been used in dubstep, been used in hip hop, it's been used in drum and bass multiple times. The Particle remix is done well. It's got huge bass. It's got interesting break work. If this one was dropped at the right time, I think you could just make people freak out. Pull up and ask for rewind. Alibaba by John Holt, another Saxon remix. The only guy who appears twice besides Newtone. This one has like a uprising kind of bouncy bass with some jungle and influences and pitch snares, and got that. It's that perfect mix of old school, new school with a sample that you've heard before. Awesome. And then our last plate is Dis the Man by Beanie Man, Pete Cannon remix. This is kind of one of the more darker songs besides the Quadrant Iris Kid Hops remix. A little bit more techie sounding, and another classic sample that you have definitely heard before. It's great that Hospital went full spectrum with this album. We went all the way from like atmospheric drum and bass to a little bit darker and deep. I mean, they didn't have any like real tear out songs or anything, but they definitely like tried to get a real good encapsulation of the Jetstar catalog and get really interesting artists to get featured on it. And then we have last but not least, At the Foot of the Mountain by Dennis Brown, Double O and Mantra remix. This one is like it sounds a lot like it belongs on Good Looking back in the mid 90s. It's true atmospheric drum and bass. You don't get nearly as much of that anymore, which is kind of a shame. So this was just, it fits in perfectly. It's a nice way to calm down the album at the end. Great. If you ask me, Hospital knocked it out of the park with this one. The box set is gorgeous. It's got this great print on the inside. It's got this amazing cover. Everything down to the bottom of the box, well designed. It was a teeny bit expensive, but I think it was well worth it. Well worth it. It's a great album. It's a cool collector's piece. So I know they're still selling it over on their site. So if you get a chance, go pick it up. And once again, thanks to Hospital for the awesome customer service. So if you're digging this, you want me to do more, let me know. Let me know if there's anything in particular you want me to review, and make sure to like and subscribe.